Hi, good afternoon. My name is Carrie, and I am a licensed professional counselor and life coach. And thanks for joining me. I just wanted to give a super short, just a little casual discussion about cognitive behavioral therapy. Because if you're someone who sees me, you have probably experienced this. And I just think it's a core fundamental way that when I provide counseling or life coaching, it's such an integral part of what I do that I thought it might just be helpful for you to have some background about it. And again, I have a number of trainings and theoretical backgrounds, but CBT or cognitive behavioral therapy is so helpful for me personally. It's been helpful in my practice. It's been helpful in both mental health support and in just personal growth. So whether you're wrestling with some mental health challenges or you just trying to be your best you, CBT has been incredibly helpful. And again, I use it quite a bit in my work. And so I thought it just might be helpful to have some discussions around it. I'm not going to go into all the background stuff. You can read about the founder, Beck. He just recently passed, unfortunately, but I'm not going to go into all that theoretical background, but more just about what that looks like, right? And so the basis for me of CBT is that how I perceive the world is affected by my past experiences and how I am interpreted them. So for example, let's say that I'm rushing off to work and I spill coffee on myself. So if I think to myself, you know what, I've always been called clumsy. My parents called me clumsy. It's just, I've got that message stuck in my head that I'm going to really notice that I spilt that coffee, and I'm going to think, yeah, I'm clumsy. That's who I am, right? Because that event has some meaning for me, and that's how I interpret it. More importantly, is that I'm going to interpret that event for a lot of experiences in my life. So maybe I get to work and everyone's kind of busy shuffling around and no one says hi to me. And I might think, if I wasn't so clumsy, I would probably make more friends. So see how this core belief that probably started somewhere way back has kind of resonated with me. And now any behaviors I do kind of confirm that belief. So there's an old saying that your mind seeks to confirm what it already believes to be true. So if I believe I'm clumsy, I'm going to notice every time I drop a pin or spill something on me. Whereas someone who doesn't have that filter might spill coffee on them and not think twice about it. They kind of wipe it off and they go to work and it never enters their head again. It has no meaning to them. But for me, maybe it does have some meaning. So this is super important because it's hard to make positive change when our lens is somewhat tainted. So it's hard for me to feel really good about who I am as a person if I believe that I'm fundamentally flawed and have these negative traits. So I hope that makes sense. So for example, sometimes we have, so that was an example of overgeneralization, right? So I had one incident of spilling coffee on myself. But because of some negative messages, I'm clumsy. That's just who I am. I'm just generalizing it to everything. There's a number of ways kind of our filter can make life a little more stressful. And that's really the bottom line, is sometimes these messaging and our lens on life makes it a little more difficult than it needs to be. And sometimes we need an outside person to kind of question that. So I would hope if I was in counseling and this came up, a counselor would very gently and lovingly and kind way say, I hear yourself, calling yourself clumsy. Don't you think a lot of people accidentally spill something on themselves when they're rushing? Do you think that's just something that happens to you? Does that necessarily mean you're clumsy just because you spilled coffee on your way out the door? That's CBT. That's a way of gently asking those questions about, you have this lens. Is it really true? Is it always true? maybe sometimes I am clumsy, right? We're all clumsy. But is that defining who I am? Is that preventing me from being my best me because I have this messaging? And if I believe I'm clumsy, will I maybe not ever attempt paddleboarding, right? Because if you're clumsy, who would attempt paddleboarding? And so that belief is now keeping me from trying something new, maybe an activity I'd really enjoy. Which I do love paddleboarding, and I am clumsy. But that's a perfect example about how you can take a messaging and expound it into this negative belief about yourself that therefore limits you in a way that isn't healthy for us, and it doesn't help us feel good about who we are. And so that's CBT. It's all about looking at the way we see the world and interpret the world, and making sure that we're not seeing and interpreting the world through a lens that maybe isn't quite true. I'll give an example. I had someone I was working with that from some trauma. I work a lot with people who have survived trauma. Because of their trauma background, they had kind of got the message that they were damaged goods. And so therefore they interpreted the world and people's behaviors as if they were damaged goods. And so when she would meet someone new, she would automatically assume these people really wouldn't value her. And so she would behave in ways that would therefore treat her in a not so kind way, which just confirmed her belief that she was not of value. But once we really looked at that was the core belief that was leading to some of those behaviors, she can tweak her behavior and therefore engage with people in a way where the expectation is they would treat her differently. And then she would start surrounding her with people who did treat her differently and treated her with the respect she was due. And so therefore she was able to tweak that filter a little bit and see people in a different way, see her own behavior in a different way, and then have more healthy relationships. Again, I truly believe that, our mind seeks to confirm what we already believe to be true. And so therefore, we behave in a way that confirms these beliefs. If I believe that, I lose my temper too easily, and there's no evidence of that, but it's just a belief I got because someone somewhere around, at some point in my life said, you can be a little bit snippy. And for whatever reason, let's say that belief just really took hold, well, then I'm going to notice every time I'm angry, which will actually make me more angry because I'm noticing every time I'm frustrated and angry. And therefore, I really might act in a way that's more angry. And then more people will say, gosh, Carrie, you're pretty angry all the time, which just confirms that belief that someone planted way back here that I was an angry person. And again, hopefully a counselor somewhere along that way would be, could challenge that a little bit and question that core belief about why I think I'm angry. Is there evidence of it? Is there evidence contrary to it? And then being able to tweak that belief a little bit, change my behavior a little bit, and then I can see life in a little bit of a different manner, and not be so angry because I never really was to begin with. And here's the thing about messaging. We tend to get messages a lot of times as children. Sorry, that's my dog, part of working from home. They don't understand when I'm on or off the computer, right? They just know they want outside. They don't care what I'm doing. We tend to get messaging when we're young. And our brain is kind of wired at a young age to be kind of sensitive to feedback as a safety protection, right? And so, if mom always raises her voice at a certain level when there's a safety issue, like I do with my dogs, right? I might be like, come on, come on, come on. And then I see a car coming and I'm like, come right now, then they know like, oh, okay, that's when we really need to move it, right? It's the same way with messaging, is that we get the belief that when we hear a parental message, our brain may really latch onto that message, even if it's not altogether true, or it's just not even what the parent intended. This happens a lot of when I work with families, and I'll have a child say, oh, my mom doesn't think I'm ever going to be anything because, you know, when I was in 3rd grade, she said, I don't even know why we're doing this science project because you're never good in science. Right. And then I talked to the parent about that message, and they're like, oh my gosh, I think my child's amazing. I was probably just frustrated. It was 10 o'clock. They hadn't told me they needed to do this science project. So I was totally frustrated that at 10 o'clock at night, we're digging out science project stuff. Right. And so again, we get a message somewhere that may not be quite right. And our little brains latch onto it. And then again, then we see confirmation of that everywhere we go. It's just like, have you ever bought a car and you thought, no one else has this color of car? I'm so excited that I have this, maroon car. No one else has a maroon car. And then after you drive off the lot, you see 100 million maroon cars and you're like, what in the world? It's because all of a sudden your filter's been tweaked a little bit, and you're coming to attention to something that before you didn't pay any attention to. It's the exact same thing. We can get a message, and then all of a sudden our filter is zoned in on that message. We all of a sudden see things that confirm that message, and then behave in a way that a lot of times confirms that message, and never stop to think about, wait a minute, is that message really even true? Is that true about me? Is it something I want to change? There's all kind of things we can really look at that about. Is it really defining who I am? Is it limiting what I do, what I attempt to do, what I think I can do in the future because of this belief? So hopefully I didn't make a simple concept just more complicated. But if you work with me, you will hear things a lot of times around, is there a message behind that belief? Is there, when you say, like, maybe you say, well, it's hard for me to make friends because, everyone's super busy and I just don't have a lot to bring to the table. Hopefully you will have me question you a little bit about that. Like, where did that belief come from that you don't have a lot to bring to the table? Where does that belief come from that people may not want to be your friend? Where did that come from? And more importantly, what do we do about that moving forward? So I hope that's a helpful kind of brief explanation about CBT and some kind of ways that it can make your life better. If you're interested, don't hesitate to reach out. There's lots of CBT workbooks. There's thought trackers. There's even apps on your phone. And so if you think that's a concept that might be helpful for you, don't hesitate to reach out. And if I can be of any support, as always, don't hesitate to reach out. Have an amazing day.